welcome back. I know it's been a minute since my last video, but I've had to work through some things. Had some setbacks with some 3D software, but I've been working with a character lately, and I started the 2D sketch in Photoshop, and I realized some things that I was missing by not doing the 2D side of things, and just jumping straight into 3D, which is good for an approach. But I wanted to talk about some things in regards to developing your design, and maybe this is a more efficient way to do it. So let's say that you have an idea, you do a loose sketch in 2D, and don't refine it, because you don't know how much time you're going to spend on this 2D sketch, or 2D drawing, only to take it into 3D to this next stage, and you're going to have to rework so much of it that you've kind of wasted your time. So I think it's beneficial with this approach to kind of do a loose sketch, go into 3D, and just do a rudimentary mock-up. So say in with this video that you're watching now, it's a helmet. So if you're doing a helmet, just manipulate a sphere, maybe up the resolution a bit so you can just draw in some cut lines and things like that, the basic structure of your 2D sketch, and just rotate it around in 3D space and just check that the forms are kind of aligning with what you picture. And if not, then you can assess and maybe change a few things in 3D, just at a real basic level. Maybe tweak the lighting a little bit, move the lighting around, see how the shadows are hitting it, and do some renders, like maybe some test renders or some screenshots, and then take those renders or screenshots back into your 2D software and develop further from there. This obviously gives you a good understanding of the forms and how they're looking at 3D space. And even if you're not going back to 3D, so you're going to develop a 2D image, it's armed you with that knowledge that you're aware of how these things look from different angles. So, let's say that you draw a character up, right? From the front, you go take it into 3D, you mock up this character, and then you turn it to the side and it just doesn't work, right? And then once you change it from the side, you change it back to the front again, maybe you've solved a whole load of problems just doing that. So I think it is really beneficial to use 3D even if you're working through the rest of the design in a 2D sense. So this could be a good approach. There's also another key fundamental to using the 3D early on, and that's the function, right? So again, going back to this helmet, if you look at certain parts of the helmet that I've designed, there's things that I want to happen. They might not actually happen with this sculpt because I'm not going to animate it or anything, so it won't function, but I want to sell the idea that something happens to it. Say the visor, how does that even operate in the real world? Does it just flip up? Does it rotate back, along the form of the helmet? If that's the case, then I have to think about certain things like how much clearance does it need to actually slide back, the distance that it's going to cover. So all these things are very important to iron out early on, because like I said, if I was going to go back into 2D and develop it further, I'm just armed with that understanding of the forms, and the function in this sense is really important because that could guide how I manipulate the forms, even in 2D, when I'm refining things. So I find that the 2D, 3D combined workflow is really, really valuable for this. This function part of analyzing your designs is so important to me because feel I really need to iron this out, in my work, because if I don't, then I haven't sold the design, and anyone can look at it and just think, this doesn't make sense. How does this work? How does he take this helmet off? How does he flip the visor up? And what's the mechanism behind it? So I find that these things are really good to get solved in the early part of the design work. This just makes everything else a lot easier. So I think just that, that little workflow could be quite valuable. So quick 2D sketch, take it into 3D, a little bit of manipulation, come back, 3D sketch, your 2D sketch, assess what you've learned from that short time you spent in 3D, come back to 2D, rework it, and then if you want to stay in 2D, finish it to a complete illustration, or then go back to 3D and develop it further. What I did, and the workflow I like to use, is I do a 2D sketch but very loose, which is what you see on the left hand side of the screen. It's not something that I'm going to follow, it's just a feeling. I don't know if that really makes sense, but it's just to get a sense of what I'm trying to do with this concept. So with that, it's enough information for me to go into 3D, and I'll take parts of what I like about the sketch and then I'll develop it further. There's a lot of things in the sketch that I wasn't completely on board with, but that's fine because I know that I'm going to develop it a lot further in 3D, and I'm confident that I can do that, at least solve some things. Obviously it flags up some more issues that I've got to solve, but I do like sketching in 3D as well, so I combine my 2D and 3D sketching now alongside each other. But the thing is with that is, once I've done my 2D work, I'm done with it. I move forward in 3D, and I'll tackle any obstacles that sort of come my way in 3D and solve them then. And then from there, I'm gonna, once the block end's done, then I'm gonna break the model apart, do all that remeshing and all that kind of good stuff, which I'll show in this video. But I just wanted to cover this, because I think it could be beneficial on both sides of the scale, whether you're gonna do just your 2D work, or you're gonna do a full 3D asset, in the end. I think it couldn't hurt, to look at it. And I love drawing, and I do miss drawing, so I wanted to incorporate that back into my workflow. And in future videos I will do some videos of me sketching up concepts and silhouettes, things like that. But anyway, for now, that is all I've got. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.